Welcome to the Global Water and Sanitation Center, or GWSC Experts Talk, GET, a get-to-know conversation with our experts in water and sanitation. Hello everyone, I am Renz, and I am your host for today's episode. Today, we have two expert guests with me to introduce us to the world of innovation and development in water and sanitation, the SDG6. Introducing the world of toilet. That smells nice and clean, right? Our first guest speaker is none other than the globally renowned Mr. Toilet, Professor Dr. Jack Sim. Professor Dr. Sim is the founder of the Restroom Association of Singapore, the World Toilet Organization, the World Toilet Day Initiative, and the bottom of the pyramid hall. He is an adjunct professor at Lim Kuan Yew School of Public Policy and a fellow at Singapore University of Social Science. The recipient of SWAL Foundation Award for Social Entrepreneur of the Year in 2001, elected a Fellow of Ashoka in 2007, Innovators for the Public, Heroes of the Environment for 2008 by Time Magazine. Hello, Professor Sim.
Hello.
And our second storyteller is our very own Professor Thammarat Koottatep from the Environmental Engineering Management Program and co-director of Global Water and Sanitation Center here at the Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. He is an internationally recognized professional on fecal sludge management. That is why his colleagues call him Mr. FSM. He has invented sanitation, toilet technologies, one of which is patented to his credits, and several are filing. Since 2023, he is a member of the advisory board for International Water Association Inclusive Urban Sanitation Initiative. Hello, Professor Thammarat. So this is going to be a fulfilling conversation with you. So learning from the history of sanitation and moving forward, our attention shifted towards sanitation in the year, I think, 2000, right? And when the MDGs or the Millennium Development Goals were introduced, aiming to achieve certain targets by 2015, then the SDGs became the focal point, the Sustainable Development Goals. And time flies so fast. Here we are in 2023 with just, I think, 7 years remaining to meet this new deadlines in 2030. So we are getting there. Surprisingly, 1.6 billion people across the globe, they don't have access yet to these toilet facilities. So starting from your perspective, Professor Sim, what do you consider to be the most formidable challenge in addressing this issue?
So basically, sanitation is still considered the ugly stepsister of water. And when they park a sanitation under the water agenda, they almost forgotten to say anything about sanitation. This year, I attended the UN Water Conference, which is the second time in the history of the UN, and they call it a water conference, not a water and sanitation conference. And in the entire conference, which was probably like 12,000 delegates attending, maybe about 5% talks about sanitation. So it is a very neglected subject because it is not a blue issue, it is not a green issue, it is a brown issue. And I believe that the development sector have to pay attention to all this kind of neglected agenda and not just chase the donor money. And the donor want glam. So this is why it's so important to talk about sanitation.
Thank you, Professor Sim. So it's very important to note how usually we consider toilet as the ugly stepsister. So from that perspective, what do you think is the role of toilet in peace development and peace building, especially today that we are celebrating International Day of Peace? Because we always talk about water and sanitation, we don't talk toilet more often.
I mean, you cannot choose not to go to the toilet,
Mm-hmm.
whether peace or war or emergency or disaster time. And if you neglect it, you will actually spread diseases. So you see people survive earthquake and die of diarrhea. And this is all very important because human dignity has to be preserved even in the harshest period.
Yeah.
And I believe that not handling sanitation costs big losses of money in tourism income, in medical expenditure, in loss of productivity of people, in girls getting raped when they go to the open to defecate, when the adolescent girl leaving school when there is no place to change a sanitary napkin. And so many problems unnecessarily happen just because we don't talk about it. So we have to talk about sanitation all the time.
Yes. You mentioned about tourism. I remember that on September 27, we will be celebrating the World Tourism Day. And people there is part of the core theme as part of the tourism and green investment. And it is important to note how you emphasize the vulnerability of girls and women and also children, because there are also other boys who are assaulted. So the more that they are denied access to toilet, we are adding or putting them in the vulnerability to be assaulted, to be violated, or closer to violence. And that's a good point. Another one, why have toilets historically not been prioritized and often located isolated corners of houses, distant from living spaces, which are with lower significance?
The human being is always portrayed themselves as very wholesome, good-looking, elegant, and they need to come to terms with the fact that they are able to produce a pungent smell. And they cannot accept it because they consider that this is not elegant. But actually the pungent smell is a result of fermentation, which is necessary to break down the nutrients, to return to the soil, to regenerate the soil biome, to grow new crops. And it's also to protect us against pathogens. Imagine if the shit smell very nice, children will go touch it, and so they will get sick. But if the shit don't smell good, then it repels them. So in this natural process, we have to understand it's actually very good for us. It's not rude, it's not ugly or vulgar. It is important that we address it the way that it should be. And the more we talk about it, the more solution we will discover.
Yes, and toilets, we should consider them as the portal of sanitation, and that's why it is important to maintain sanitation to the portal of sanitation, right? So, having an insight to what you have said, Professor Sim, I can say that the world is blessed that many individuals now, especially the youth, are working across the globe to address the issue in water and sanitation. Like Professor Thammarat, our very own. One thing that I can remember is the program that he developed, the Reinventing the Toilet program. And now I'm happy to tell you that we will hear firsthand from him about this project. Professor Thammarat, please provide us a brief description of the Reinventing the Toilet. And how do you think we can feel this gap of addressing the challenges with that innovation?
Good. I think that, well, the toilet is not that new. The technologies are there for more than 100 years, 200 years. I think the very first toilet that having the flush water is almost 200 years old, the technologies. Then after that, it seems that we have no movement in the innovation of the toilet technologies. If you look into the history, the museums of that, the toilets is still the same shape, the same way of that we flush the toilets into a certain tank or soak away out in the ground, in the drain. Then the reinventing the toilets program is not by myself. It is by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations that they try to challenge all the scientists or the innovators or the researchers around the world that how should we reinvent the toilet technologies in the way that we can kill the germs, we can kill those kind of dirty things or the bad smell at the same time. That could be the better way that we can help prevent the diseases for the people around the world. So I think the toilet technologies, we need a very advanced improvement in terms of that, how we can treat it, not just only to collect the feces or the urine out of your bodies. Of course, this is a bad smell, contain many of that germs that can cause you the sickness and many other diseases together with the bad smell. So to do that, normally if these conventionally get into the pipe and then you send out to the treatment plant, either in the city or outside the city, then it is very costly. The other ideas that coming into this reinventing the toilet program is that we need to decentralize or treat it at site or on site. That you yourself, you produce this kind of bad smell or dirty things, whereas why don't you process it into the way that you can get rid of those kind of germs and get rid of the smell, and then you can benefit from the products that you are treating as well. So that comes to the questions that how do we do that? And then by technologies, by this kind of very advanced technology we can do. But the problem would be that what would be the affordable price of the toilet technologies if we advance too much? We can copy the use of that, the toilet in the spacecraft or in the Boeing that they have very advanced technologies, but is that possible to apply for the poor people, which is the big group of the population that having no access to toilets? And then if they have to purchase this kind of toilet with the advanced technologies, that quite advanced. So that having a very challenge to the researchers, to the experts, to the scientists, that how we can optimize the use of the on one hand very advanced technologies, on the other hand it should be affordable price for the people who have no access to that. That's a program.
That's a very good point, Professor Thammarat, to highlight that in developing a certain technology, we should ensure that those people, especially living in poverty, they are not left behind, they are not marginalized. And another thing, I will read it now. According to the GMP report in 2023, just recently, or the Joint Monitoring Program for Water Supply, Sanitation, and Hygiene, safely managed sanitation is crucial, and 3.5 billion people, or 2 in 5, do not have safely managed sanitation. And it also says that achieving SDG WASH, the targets by 2023, will require a 3 to 6-fold increase in current rates of progress.
Yeah.
So, according to your view, how can we fill this gap of the progress with the reinventing the toilet?
Well, I think many things we have to do at the same time, at least in this coming 7 years time. It's very short. For you, for the young generation, oh, it's 7 years, it's quite long. But for us, it's quite short. That we need a very high speed of the progress in terms of the investment, in terms of that we can advocate the people, the political leaders that come in and join hand in moving the change like that, from the investor, from the NGO or whoever the stakeholders that push forward the agendas and with the appropriate technologies. I think this kind of SDG targets, SDG 6.2 in particular, that we talked about the safely managed sanitations, is much more difficult compared with the MDG. In the past, we said that people should have had the toilets, but don't say about that how we should treat the waste from the toilets, either the liquid or the solid parts. But in the SDG, we have to put up the whole chain of the sanitations, having the toilets. And what about the solid part? How should we manage? How should we process? Then the way that it should not be harmful to the environment, or should not cause any other diseases to the other people. Of course, if you use your toilets, you may be safe from the disease. But after having the solid under the ground or into the rivers, you may spread that kind of remaining germs into the environment that cause the other people infected by your shit, unfortunately.
Yeah, the shit. You mentioned about efforts, and it is also important to highlight collective efforts, not just only considering the voices of the scientists, researchers, advocates, but also those in the margins or the people itself. We should help them to be aware, to know more about the importance and the value of toilet, because if they become aware, they will be the first one to ask for help. Like, I need to have a toilet because I see my neighbors, they have toilet, but us, we don't have. So from that point of view, I call it a reform from within. So it is not only top-bottom, but also bottom-up approach, considering their voices, helping them to get informed. Thank you, Professor Thammarat. And from reinventing the toilet to the leverage model for sanitation advocacy by Professor Sim, what do you think, Professor Sim, is the role of this advocacy, and how would this advocacy support and assist in addressing this safely managed sanitation gap?
This leverage model opens up abundance where anyone can learn how to excite other people to join in this effort. Because our own resources are always limited, but the external resources is unlimited. So imagine that everyone who has some ability, some resource to contribute to solving this sanitation crisis around the world can be invited and motivated to act. Then this problem will go away. For example, we can excite politicians to want to win election, promising people toilet. But how do we do that? First, we have to drive the demand that it becomes popular for people to want to have toilet. And then the politician says, well, if everybody wants it, I'm going to change the policy for it and I'm going to win the election. The academia, they do research and they make evidence, and then the bureaucrats can use it to do their cost-benefit analysis, and then the celebrities can come in to spice it up. If everybody join in, the World Bank, the ADB, the Gates Foundation, the governments, I think this is going to be solved very, very quickly. But they have to be working together, not alone, not in silos.
Perfect. When you mentioned about this leverage model, I remember just now the social learning theory by Bandura. Like when you make someone a model to make someone follow, especially in positive actions like this, So, do you think how can you relate it to social learning theory, like having those as models, good examples?
I think I always start with the media. Today, whoever controls the narrative controls the result. And if we can influence the media to help tell the story, then all the rest will follow. I have been working in the last 23 years telling story, and the impact was that 2.5 billion people have access to improved sanitation. But now we have to upgrade it to safely manage sanitation, which include the treatment and not to let the shit go into the river. And so we have gained enough experience to mobilize everybody and to orchestrate them into like a symphony. Everybody must act in harmony to produce a very harmonized result. Today, people are working in silo. They are chasing the donor money. They're trying to be famous, egoistic. And so we have to go and pick them individually and assemble so that they can achieve much more than they are working alone. And then they will be together.
So you call them as orchestrator, right?
We should be the orchestrator. They are the harmonized actors.
Oh, very good. But one thing that we should remember, Professor Sim, if you don't think you can be an orchestrator and you are just part of the audience or part of the music or the player of musical instrument, at least make sure that you are contributing in making harmony.
Yes.
Right?
Don't fight.
Yeah, Sometimes resistance is good as part of activism, but one thing that I realized, if you cannot be an orchestrator, at least part in forming the harmony. Because the world needs harmony to build peace. I love it. And that is interesting because the Global Water and Sanitation Center have similar works and advocacy, Professor Sim. We have here our co-director, Professor Thammarat. So, Professor Thammarat, how do you think this model aligns with the efforts of GWSC?
Yeah, GWSC, our center is not that just come in for the center as to develop the new technologies. Yes, our specialties or expertise in development of the new technologies that we have done in the past many decades, that we are doing that still. But we found out that just having a new knowledge, new science or new technologies, it cannot solve the problems. We have been developed so many technologies, but many of them is sit on the shelf that not apply or not affordable to the people, and also that there's no interest by the industry. So the center, we would like to have more participation of many other stakeholders that we can leverage the interest or the awareness of the people that, hey, sanitation is important, and not just only advocate to the people who are willing to use it, but how we can attract the industry. There are so many industry that they are able to invest in the new technologies, but how can we bring those industry to come in? We always say that, hey, we have not enough money, not enough resources to bring in, but actually in the industry, like in the petroleum industry, they are much bigger, the resources. If they can spend about that 1% of their portfolios into the sanitation business, it's very peanut for them, but for us it's very huge. So that I think it would be much better that if we can make a kind of a matching of this kind of resources. And then our center, we of course on one hand we have several partners, technologies, provisions or the service provisions, but how we can bring in those kind of commercial or industry partners that we can jointly invest. Of course, they should not invest alone. And then we need the people like Jack Sims here that to help advocate, to help changing the ecosystem, like the policies, the regulations, or how we can get more demand of the sanitations. Sanitation should not mean only toilets. Yes, in the past we need toilet first, but how we can get the toilets with the appropriate treatment. Otherwise, we just convert one problems to the others, from yourself to the environment, because you are safe, but the environment is not so safe, right? Then sooner or later, that's kind of unsafe conditions will come back to you, go to the food chains, and then you will get the diarrhea. I just give you a kind of a statistics as a professor again that in Thailand, we announced ODF, the open defecation freeze, I think more than 15 years. We proudly present this kind of figures or the statistics to many forums. And then it's very good. And then, as you said, that what is the kind of impacts we can see from this kind of investment? The people dead by the diarrhea, by this kind of waterborne diseases, reduced drastically. But because of that, we don't have good treatment system yet. The number of the people having the diarrhea, it is instead increasing. It's not reducing. So that means that we have the toilets, but the people having the diarrhea is still there or even increasing, right? So that means that the toilets cannot help the people get sick. But of course, because of that, reduce the magnitude of the problems, and also that because of our medical and hospital system in Thailand is improved, then we can prevent the death, the premature death. But we can reduce a lot of that, the premature death by this kind of waterborne diseases. So that's having many implications to that, which we need this kind of storytellers like World Toilet Organization to help leading that, well, after finishing the first step of the sanitation ladders by having the toilets, then you need 2 or 3 more steps to get the better toilets. Together with that, the treatment, together with that, if possible, we can reuse that kind of a products or not, either the liquid or the solid. Why not we drink the water from our toilets? I think in Singapore, you have that the new water, right, that coming from the wastewater treatment plant, and then the Singapore authorities can produce the drinking water from that the wastewater treatment system in the large scale. But technically, why don't we produce that at source, at our communities, at our household, and then we can drink it? Do you drink? Yeah.
I drink water.
Yeah, you drink water, right?
Yeah.
If you just change the perception, it is the water. It's not the water from toilets.
Yeah.
So somehow that we need this kind of advocacy to change the people mindset that the water is a water. If it is dirty water, but it is out there in the river, in the canals, then we pump that water to be treated again. It is actually maybe 5-10% of that is come from our toilets, and then we use that water to treat and then come back to the water again. It's the same flow of the water from the toilets to the rivers and then to the treatment plant, coming back to our water that we drink. But if we can shorten the distance, instead of let them go to the river, but if we have process internally at the household, at the institute, for example, that if we can do that in AIT, do you drink?
Yes, I drink water.
Yes, that could be nice.
The things that we are talking right now, Professor Sim and Professor Thammarat, are very philanthropic, and it reminds us to restore the humanity, and by focusing on sanitation and the importance of toilet as part of green investments, right? I am thankful that GWSC is thankful to have this discussion with you, Professor Sim and Professor Thammarat. Thank you again for sharing your insights and perspectives in sanitation and management, especially your experiences. So before we close this episode, please any message to share to our viewers?
So basically, going to the toilet is a happiest thing every day. Before you go to the toilet, you're always not happy. After you come out, you're always happy. So the toilet is the happiest room in your life. Take care of it. Make sure everybody can enjoy the same experience.
Good. Well, I like to share this. The toilet is the most happiest moment we stay in the room. Somehow we stay in the bedroom, maybe not really having the happiness because of the nightmare and some others scroll in your bed on your bed. But not just only you from the toilets. You should have made the others, your neighbors, your friends in the city, in the country, that should have had the happiness as well. So after having the happiness in your toilets, in your room, then you should make the others happy as well. So that you said at the very first thing on about the FSM. Actually, it could be more or less the same as the FHM magazines, but not. It is a fecal sludge management, so-called the shit management, that we need much more on that. And then we can join hand with that the toilets together with that the shit killer or the shit managers, that we can plug in this kind of two things to be the safely managed sanitation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. FSM and Mr. Toilet. So, enjoy the release responsibly. This is the Global Water and Sanitation, or GWSC Expert Talks. GET, a get-to-know conversation with our experts in water and sanitation. See you again in our next episode.